So with it now being the 28th anniversary of the Sonic the Hedgehog series, it's always fun to look back on Sonic's history, whether it's through advertising, the comics, the cartoons, or the most common one, the video games. The shameful thing about talking about the games though, is that people's opinions are mainly centered around something they've heard someone else say, and not having their own opinions. So I want to change that and explain my opinions. This is my retrospective on the Sonic the Hedgehog games. I'm not going to go through every game in the franchise because 1, that would take too long, and 2, I haven't played every game that has existed, because some are more rare than others to find. Now keep in mind, these are my own opinions on these games. You don't have to agree with me, and I'll allow you to entitle to your own opinion. So let's start from the beginning, where things took off, and that being the game titled Sonic the Hedgehog. Mostly known nowadays as Sonic 1, or that one game Sega keeps re-releasing onto every new generation of consoles, making people own more than one copy of the game, it's not a bad game by any means. It's a great start to the series, as it starts things off simple while doing things better than what Nintendo was doing with Super Mario. In the game you play as Sonic, taking out badniks that have little animals stored inside, which were created by the mad scientist Dr. Ivo Eggman Robotnik, or just Dr. Robotnik. While doing so, you collect rings, and if you collect 50 or more of them before you reach the end of the level, you can enter a special stage and collect the 6 Chaos Emeralds, and it only gives you a different version of the ending. Well, I guess that's something. The game is really enjoyable from start to finish. It doesn't hold your hand and doesn't throw stuff at you just to make things challenging. It's short if you know how to beat it and know the best pathways to take to make it to the end, and all the other stuff throughout, like item boxes, making it a fun adventure. Even when there's that one level that no one wishes to talk about. But I'm going to, unfortunately. Labyrinth Zone is a pain when you play it for the first time, only because of the misinformation about hedgehogs being able to swim or not. But it's that music. That music that always gets you. You wanna know childhood trauma? Play Labyrinth Zone for the first time and stay in the water sections. Thank God I got over that. Unlike some other things. The special stages start out as a pain to do, but after playing the game so many times, it becomes so easy. I mean, there's still the chance of messing up, but most of the time it's a piece of cake. I'd say at least once you should get all the emeralds. You don't get any special powers for Sonic, but you just get some flowers added to the ending in Green Hill. And Robotnik stomping on the end text. Yeah, not very exciting. The game is very colourful, the music is fantastic to listen to, and it makes the game so iconic. And the controls are very simple, just move with the D-pad and press the jump button. Or while moving you can press down and you'll turn into a ball. One of Sonic's most well-known things, especially since hedgehogs in real life can turn into a ball. Bosses do offer a challenge of some sorts, but by the time you play it again and again, you'll be able to beat these bosses without dying or even getting hit once. Unless you're at Labyrinth Zone. So we have a great start for the series. It started one of the most iconic battles in video game history. While there are other wars going on, or that already happened, the most well-known for gamers has always been either the console wars or the battle between Sega and Nintendo with Sonic and Mario. Things start getting bigger for the character as we enter the game's sequel, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. A few changes from the first game, like the introductions to a character that always sticks around to Sonic, and that is Miles Tails per hour. Or just Tails. Most people had it as Sonic was player 1 while Tails was player 2. They play pretty much the same, so there isn't anything different from them. Though when Tails is off screen, he'll fly back down near you, though he can't do that when you actually play as him, which was very odd. 2-player was clearly the main focus, since there's also a 2-player mode which includes 4 stages, one of which is the special stage. It's pretty fun, though I have no one to play it with. The game only has 2 acts per zone, while the first game had 3 acts per zone, though Metropolis Zone has free acts, which was very weird. One new feature is Spin Dash, which is where you hold down and mash the jump button to then make the Spin Dash charge and then blast off into a roll of speed. A pretty fun feature to the game and would become a main move for Sonic in the later years. Bosses have a better challenge to them than the ones in the first game, so it's great that they also added in a challenge. Getting the Chaos Emeralds is different too, but not in a good way. This time, instead of getting 50 rings or more and at the end of the level, this time you enter a checkpoint with stars spinning about with 50 rings or more. You can actually get all the Chaos Emeralds in the first zone if you look hard enough for all of the checkpoints and have 50 plus rings every single time you go past one. Anyways, so instead of the special stages that we got in Sonic 1, Sonic 2 changes it to instead you have to collect a certain number of rings to get your Chaos Emerald in this half pipe. While that does sound better on paper, the execution just falls flat on its face. Because this is a 16-bit game doing 3D, the depth reception is the problem with this. And if Sonic is with Tails, you just have to pray to God that Tails doesn't hit into the bombs, otherwise that's goodbye to the Chaos Emerald. At least the reward is better this time. When you get all the 7 Chaos Emeralds, yeah 7 this time, you collect 50 rings and become Super Sonic when you jump into the air once. There's no Super Tails unfortunately, but I will say Super Sonic is a pretty cool feature, though getting all the Chaos Emeralds doesn't really do anything for the ending, other than change which Sonic you are. So going for the good ending is pretty pointless. One thing that sets this game back is that stages are shorter than the ones in Sonic 1, and most of the time you can just hold right to win, and then you'll beat the game in under 30 minutes. If you know the fastest ways. There's not a lot of exploration like the first game, it's way too short and it kinda sucks out the fun. I mean, the main thing about Sonic is going fast, but the fun factor was always the exploration. Many people say it's the best of the 16-bit era or even the best Sonic game ever, but I don't really see that myself. Sonic 2 is a good game, but it's like if Sonic 1 was a shorter game and was faster. I will admit, seeing Sonic going off screen for how fast he is pretty enjoyable to see. Graphically, the game does look like an improvement, but not by much. The music is enjoyable and I think I prefer it over the first games. Moving on, we enter our third game, which was originally exclusive to the Mega CD or Sega CD, Sonic CD. That's the third time I've said CD. Some say this game was originally going to be Sonic 2 for many reasons, like Sonic's sprite being from Sonic 1, the spin dash playing differently, and no inclusion of Tails. I can see why though. Now, I enjoy this game more than Sonic 2. I originally went back and forth with this one, but I can say now I think this is a better game than Sonic 2. But it's not better than Sonic 1. Maybe just a little below it? How about we take a look at what's different? Well, we get animated cutscenes at the start and end, and if you've watched my top 10 Sonic animations video, you already know what I think of those. Another inclusion is the 2 new characters to the series, Amy Rose. Yeah, there was a point where Amy was originally Sally from the Saturday AM cartoon. I don't get how they mixed the 2 up. But in this game, you don't play as her. But instead, you basically have to save her from the new robot in town created by Robotnik as a way to rival Sonic, Metal Sonic. Metal Sonic's pretty cool. Although we only see him like twice in this game unless you count the animated ending, so in that case, 3 times. A new addition is a new move to Sonic, that being the Super PLL. Basically, it's the spin dash, but you see Sonic running in a new sprite, and you can perform it by holding up and holding down the jump button. One of my favorite moves that Sonic can do. I love using it every time I play this game. It's a shame though that this move gets rarely used in the later games. I feel like certain games could have used it. But I'll talk about those another day. These stages are much longer than the ones in Sonic 1 and 2, but the only issue is that some things in the stages feel out of place. Like, what's with all these springs and bumpers? Even the enemy placements are questionable. Like, I swear certain enemies were not meant to be where they are placed. Sonic Spin Dash kinda sucks here, as you have to wait until it's fully charged, unlike Sonic 2. This really shows that this was in the works before Sonic 2, but had more development time. Well, if that's the case, can they just figure out how to use the Spin Dash properly? Some bosses are better, but some bosses are really dumb. Like, what was the point? Metal Sonic's boss fight is pretty cool. It may be a race to the end, but at least it puts your skills to the test at who's the better Sonic. Special stages come back and you do it exactly the same way as you would with Sonic 1. Just this time in the special stage we get a new special stage where we have to destroy UFOs to get these things called Time Stones. It's pretty fun, these special stages, and it's way better than Sonic 2's. While the Time Stones don't allow you to play as Super Sonic like Sonic 2, the Time Stones allow you to have the third act of a stage be a good future. Oh, speaking of that, the main thing to the gameplay is something which would appear later on in the franchise: time travel. Throughout stages, apart from the third acts of zones, there will be these signposts that say past or future, and when you run really fast and don't stop, you'll be teleported to the past or future versions of those stages. It's quite tricky to master doing it, but if you start running at the right point and find the perfect place to time travel, you'll have no problem. It's best to go to the past, as there's these projections of Metal Sonic and these flower capsules, and if you destroy them all in Acts 1 and 2, you'll be able to get a good future in Act 3. Otherwise, you'll be in the bad future in Act 3. Unless you got all the time stones. I like that it gives you some replay value, so it isn't the same game every time that you play. The graphics are so pretty and better looking than the first two games. The music is fantastic, both the US and Japanese/European soundtracks. I love both soundtracks equally, so we got what makes the Sonic games at this point. All they needed to do was add the exploration from Sonic 1 and CD and the fast sections of Sonic 2, and also fix what was the problems in Sonic 2, Sonic 1 to Sonic CD, to make it the perfect 16-bit era game. Which brings us to Sonic the Hedgehog 3. This game was split into two parts. Part 1 was Sonic 3, while Part 2 was a game called Sonic and Knuckles. The reason being is because there was like space limitations and also copyright deals and also apparently a deal with McDonald's. So yeah, this game was split into two games, Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles. Who is Knuckles? He is the newest character to the game. Tails makes his return and Amy and Metal Sonic aren't present in this game. The game is centered around a place called Angel Island. The death egg from Sonic 2 has crashed onto the floating island that caused it to crash into the ocean. Robotnik tricks the guardian of the Master Emerald, Knuckles the Echidna, so Sonic and Tails check things out and stop Robotnik's plans, but Knuckles tries to stop them. If you play as Knuckles, you'll get a different story where, after all those events, one of the robots does what Robotnik did, and so you're basically doing the same story, but just with the robot and Knuckles instead of Sonic and Robotnik, and including Tails. We even get a new Sonic robot, Mecha Sonic. I've only known this robot to be in this game and no other. There's a lot of stuff in the game. The stages are bigger, it's the first game in the series to include game saves, the 2-player mode is different, and we have ourselves some new features to the characters, and even the inclusion of Knuckles as a playable character. Sonic doesn't have the Super Peel-Out like in CD, but does have this thing called the Insta-Shield, which is very helpful at taking down enemies in the air or ground without worrying that you'll get hit. Just perform the jump button twice and you'll perform it. Very iconic feature in the 16-bit era, even if it was only for this game and a game we'll take a look at later on. Tails finally lets you fly, but only for a short amount of time. It feels so much better that I can fly as a character that was supposed to fly in the first place. Like honestly, why wasn't it not a thing in Sonic 2? Maybe they just didn't work the levels around it? I like flying as Tails, because it allows me to get to areas that Sonic isn't able to go to. Knuckles does have his own stuff to make him stand out from Sonic and Tails. Knuckles can glide in the air and use his fists to climb up walls and break through walls to find secret areas that Sonic and Tails aren't able to go to. Knuckles is fun to play through, especially to find all these secrets. It really does give you replay value. The bosses are some of the best in this era of the Sonic games. They start out easy, but then later on, they give you the challenge you need. Although the fight with Knuckles with Sonic and Tails is disappointing. The cool thing is that when you get all the Chaos Emeralds, you'll not only get to play as Super Sonic and the newly Super Knuckles, but for Sonic, you can also play as an exclusive level called Doomsday Zone, which is basically the true final boss of the game. But again, it's only available if you get all the Chaos Emeralds. Oh, speaking of these, the way to get the special stages is different once again. Instead of getting 50 rings or more heading to the end of the stage or finding a checkpoint that has stars on top, instead you have to locate a big ring and you'll be teleported into the special stage. It doesn't matter how many rings you have, just locate one of these and you'll be able to enter it. In these special stages, you're in a 3D-like space and you have to collect all these blue spheres. Collect a red one and you fail the special stage. The longer you're in them, the faster the special stage gets. If you collect the blue spheres outside of a line, you'll be able to turn the ones inside into a ring. And if you collect all the rings, you'll be able to get given a continue for when you get a game over. That's pretty neat. These special stages are so much fun. They are the best in the 16-bit era, though when it gets faster, it does hurt my eyes a bit for staring at it for too long. After you beat the Sonic 3 portion of the game, and you enter the Sonic and Knuckles portion, you'll get a new special stages where you can unlock the Super Emeralds. Basically a harder blue spear special stages. You better practice at them, cause these are hard as hell. Getting all the Super Emeralds unlocks you Hypersonic and Knuckles, and for the first time ever, Super Tails, and his army of Flickies. Hypersonic is basically God mode for Sonic. Faster than ever, able to destroy enemies on screen with a flash of light. Again, it's Sonic if he had a God mode. Hyper Knuckles is alright, just a more powerful Knuckles than Super Knuckles. At least that's how I see it. Like, take all the stuff from Super Knuckles and give it twice the powers. Super Tails is freaking cool. His army of Flickies can take down any enemies for you and makes you OP as hell. Although nothing else changes from this. The stars on top of the checkpoints make a return if you get 20 or more rings, and instead of going to a special stage, you get to go into one of these bonus games. And they're alright. They're like a way to like get extra rings or even to get like a special item, so like a particular shield. Oh yes, the shields! Throughout the game, there's these shields. In Sonic 1, 2, and CD, you just got the standard shield just to give you an extra hit. And that is the case in this game too, but these shields can do something interesting. These are called the Elemental Shields. The first one is the Bubble Shield, which allows you to survive underwater, and it can also let you bounce, which is pretty cool. Next up is the Fire Shield, and it allows you to survive any fire that's in the environments. Pretty cool. It also gives you an air dash. That's also cool. But it can't survive underwater, quite obviously. And finally there's the Electric Shield, which gives you a double jump and it can also collect any nearby rings, which is very cool. And again, it can't survive underwater, which is unfortunate. Then again, water and electric is a no-no. The graphics are the best of this era, and so is the music. I absolutely love it. Out of all these games in this era for Sonic, Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the best of them all. It does everything I wanted the game to do, and does it twice as much. The music is fantastic, the best of the 16-bit era. They got Michael Jackson to do it. I didn't know that until after he died, and it blew my mind. Though it's kind of weird how he didn't want to be credited, but looking into the history of why he wasn't credited and such, I can see why. Graphically, this is the best looking game in this era. I've been saying that a lot, but it's true, Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the best game in this era. I love this game so much I can go back and play this game any day. These games would later on get remasters for the App Store and Google Play. Created by a fan called Christian Whitehead, who would work on the game I'll be bringing up in a different video. He's created what is known as the definitive ways of playing Sonic 1, 2, and CD. His CD remaster would also be available to play on consoles through like Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network, and is also available on PC through Steam. Sadly, we never got Sonic 1 and 2 on those platforms, at least those remasters. I would love to play those on PC. And we were gonna get Sonic 3 and Knuckles as well, but that hasn't happened yet. There is, however, a different way to have the definitive Sonic 3 experience, either through the ROM hack for the Mega Drive emulators called Sonic 3 Complete. There are lots of ways to play the best experience of Sonic 3, and you can customize how you want it. There's a video from YouTuber Cybershell that I highly recommend you go check out, as it goes into detail about this ROM hack. We also have the more recent Sonic 3 Air, Angel Island Restored, basically a fan-made PC version that looks like a Christian Whitehead version of the game. I definitely recommend that you check out these versions of Sonic 3 for the best playthrough, and the same goes for the mobile versions of Sonic 1 and 2, and the console, CD, and mobile version of Sonic CD. Playing the original versions isn't that bad, but you'll notice the flaws. So, we got a pretty good start for the series here, but then things got weird as we jump into the world of 3D. No, we're not going to that game yet. We've got 3 games to look at before we get to those. So join me in part 2 where I take a look at the times that Sonic actually went into 3D before he officially went to 3D. I'll see you all then.